Welcome. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We just chatted for a second a little earlier, but I'll get us started here. My name is Ben. I'm going to be hosting today's episode of Half Past. I'm here with Ramesh of Voxtrot, playing with us at the
Hello.
Atlantis on April 11th.
Yeah.
Very excited to talk to you. You've come back after a long hiatus and are back with more music and better than ever. And very stoked to have you. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Um, how's everything going? How do you feel being back?
Being back from obscurity, you mean?
In a way, I guess. Or
I
I mean,
feel
it's like risen from the ashes. You're back and making music again after I mean, you did solo stuff, but
yeah,
as
yeah.
Voxtrot, you're back. How does it feel?
It feels great. I mean, like we did the reunion tour in 2022. So that was like yeah, there was so much excitement around that. So that was the first back. And then it's like getting to this next part of actually making a new album of completely new songs. It's like you have an idea, or I have an idea of exactly how it would happen, how much time it would take, who would release the record, all of those details. And it's not like that. It's like you got to just buckle up and hang on for the ride. And yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, I'm actually really happy that it worked out this way, and we revitalized our own label and released it on that, and took maybe a year longer than I thought it would, but it's awesome. I'm so happy that we're actually here at this moment.
Yeah. What did it feel like coming back and making new music together after so long not doing that?
For me, honestly, it was seamless. I know for my bandmates, it kind of the rhetoric, and this is not like rhetoric we came up with for press. I think they honestly felt this way, was like, oh, we didn't know how it would be when we played together again, if the magic would be there, etc. I did not have that fear. And I couldn't even say why, I guess because I've gone through so many ups and downs, of having success and then not having success and struggling really hard to get results and just all this stuff, to where I have developed a very strong ethic around songwriting and around generally bringing projects from idea to completion. But when we went in to do it, I guess I've just had a certain level of trust that there was no reason why it wouldn't work. Like we had just played that tour together. That felt great. I've been working hard on the songs. I just figured life is short. You just show up with all the elements, and if you have faith, there's no reason that it shouldn't work.
Yeah. Was that sort of ethic always there for you? Like, where did that come in? Was that something that you learned in the hiatus, or was that sort of like something that came back into play after a while?
That ethic, I mean, even when we were a band the first time, I didn't think of it as being there because at first it was so casual. But once we were like really in it, and we were signed, and we were, it was my full-time job when I was starting when I was 22, I guess. Um, it was there. I mean, I had like 5 days a week. I went to the piano practice rooms at the University of Texas, even though I wasn't a student. And I would go there and work on songs. And then we had band practice 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So the ethic was there. But yeah, I guess because once Foxtrot split up, and I was then in this kind of wilderness trying to make a solo career. And I will say during that time, I don't know, I kind of, at first I lost my connection to music. Like I was still doing it, but it's weird. It's like I entered this psychedelic world where I couldn't tell what makes a song good, what makes a song bad. Like I don't know how else to explain it other than a lost connection, but I kept doing it and doing it. And I found that the more that I stayed rigorous about just doing it without having an ego attachment to the results, the more results just naturally come. Like you build the structure, or you provide the structure, and the thing comes through.
So many people just get in their own way, I feel like, where it's like you have to just get past that, like, what if I can't do it? Or like, I just am thinking about this too much. It like,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, many musicians I know, including myself at times in my life, have the habit of starting 5 billion songs, never finishing them, always coming up with a reason to justify to themselves why they're not finishing that one
Yeah.
and starting another one, never wanting to write the lyrics because it's the hardest part. Like I have
Yeah.
so many musician friends who are like, yeah, I'm still getting my stuff together and like soon I'll play a show. And it's like, no, you have to finish songs, you have to finish recordings, you have to release them, and you have to play concerts, or else the muscle never develops.
So is your goal to have 0 demos ever?
Well, I mean, I do always have 5 billion demos
Yeah.
cooking, but I'm like very intentional now about I'll have to pick a day, for each song and say, okay, today is the day that I finish that song,
Yeah.
even if I'm not feeling like magical about it, I finish it. And then often I find afterward that the magic is there, but you can't expect that dopamine rush all the time.
How do you find that you've reached the end of a project or a song? Is there a specific moment where you're like, oh, I got it, like that's the end of it?
Yeah, I guess I just like when I feel like a demo is exciting enough to me, I well, I mean, this is tricky because as I'm sure you've heard the phrase demo-itis, it's like
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to say when it's actually done, but I guess I get to a point where I think, okay, this is exciting enough to me, but now I'm going to engage in the game of trust, and I'm going to hand it over to my bandmates, and I'm
Yeah.
going to trust that there's a whole world of what they're going to add, whatever the alchemy is, when it's then all of us together, that I can't even imagine what that is.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say what is the thing where suddenly I say,
Oh, we lost him for a second. Uh-oh. Dang, last time with Benny this happened like an hour in. We'll give him a second and then hopefully he'll come back. You back?
wait,
We got you.
yes,
I
I'm
think you're
back.
back.
I don't know what happened.
Sometimes I think it just Discord can be like that. It's the internet, the troubles of technology in the modern age.
Yeah.
But you're back. You were in the middle of talking about leaving a project with your bandmates and having, letting them sort of use their alchemy magic on it.
Yeah, just that at some point you have to be willing to hand it over.
Yeah. At what point in the songwriting process are you handing stuff over usually? Is it like, are you doing like 80% of a song? And you're like, okay, guys, like fill out the other 20%, or is it more of a rougher cut?
Well, in Voxtrot, it has always been the case that I write all of the songs in terms of the lyrics, chords, melody, the song structure.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I mean, I'm sure there's some instances where, well, I know there's some instances where other members have suggested, like, oh, it would be cool to use this chord here. So that does occasionally happen, but for the most part, what I'm coming with is the song completed. But then the arrangement is something else. And of course, like the arrangement is very important. I'm not writing their bass parts, I'm not writing their drum parts. And my bandmates are extremely good arrangers, and they do a great job of giving sophistication and complexity and levity to what I write. But these days, I will say that I love demoing things in Logic, and I love like using drum loops. And so now I come with some pretty complete pieces. I'm hoping actually to release all the demos from this recent album at some point as like a cassette tape or something.
That'd be sweet.
They don't like what we end up in the end. You of course will see the parallel with my original demo. It's not verbatim, but the demos end up sort of having their own personalities.
Yeah. I feel like people really always enjoy those sort of back looks of how the how it all gets made. I feel like people really like seeing people get stems for projects and they really start on the website and stuff like that. Do you think you
Yeah.
would ever do something like that if you wanted other sort of participation from others?
Well, we did it actually with the fourth single we released, which is on the album Esprit de Corps. We did actually release the stems and invite people to make their
Sweet.
own versions, and we had some really good ones. So yeah, I it's interesting because in the past I would have been like of the opinion that it's better for no one to ever see behind the curtain until maybe like 30 years from now and you can release
Yeah.
your version of the Beatles anthology. But now, I don't know. Now I think it's like if the album has lived for even a year or something and people have ingested it, I think it's cool to put the demos out there.
What changed about that changed your mind?
I just generally have a less constricted idea. I'm less concerned about controlling the narrative and controlling the experience than I used to be. I think because I've been doing it long enough, I've found that like over time, if people love songs or they love a band, that's really the only thing that matters. And that's the only thing that gives it longevity and causes it to grow roots with multiple successive generations. It's not really about how you controlled the marketing angle
Yeah.
or how you sold it to somebody. I understand there are marketing strategies people employ to try and make something hit or whatever, but I've found that if you're really talking about a long career, it's about like authentic emotional connection to the music, and the way that happens, the method through which that happens is not so important.
I'm noticing a pattern of you talking about like, leaving your ego at the door, sort of like letting things go and letting other people have creative freedom with your own work. Is that something that was present at the start of the band as well, or is that sort of a newer form of yours?
Well, we didn't live in that world back then.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
true.
it was,
Yeah.
I mean, we actually did do it with, I now remember with our song Mothers, Sisters, Daughters, and Wives. When we got signed, I remember they did this kind of contest. I think they gave away, the label, I think gave away a guitar signed by me, and it had the stems for that song
Oh,
online,
really?
and people were able to like make remixes of
Yeah.
it. Probably the best one was our own keyboards made a remix, mashing it up with what's that Massive Attack song?
Is
Uh,
it the house theme song?
it's exactly that.
I
Yeah,
forget the name of it off the top of my head, but banger. Yeah.
yeah, he did an amazing job with that. But yeah, we just didn't think about it back then. I think at that time it was like, that's like in the era of concern of albums leaking, you
Yeah.
know? At
Yeah.
that time, it was about protecting this thing so that when it hit the market, you would sell physical
Yeah.
units.
Yeah. It's
And it
a
was
very,
something to
very
worry
different
about.
market. Yeah.
Now it's like, I feel like people don't even think about that. People care only about, or like if you're talking about marketing, sales, whatever, people
Yeah.
care about exposure
Yeah.
above all else. So, like, what does it take for me to get exposure? It's not that I'm like enlightened and therefore impervious to worrying about any
Yeah.
of it, but I just really don't think about that stuff very much anymore. I
Yeah.
realize that it gives me no end of hell to to have like constant ongoing anxiety about how things are going. It's better for me to just put it out there.
But torturing yourself isn't fun?
Apparently not, it turns
Yeah.
out.
Scientists have found out that torturing
They
yourself
found out
mentally is actually not that fun.
after
Um,
decades of research.
yeah, it took them a really long time to crack that one. Um, well, cool. I mean, this new album is great. You're about to start touring it. You start next week. How
That's right.
has that preparation been? How does it feel to be? I mean, were you touring in between the reunion tour and now and playing shows with this band, or was it just making the album? What's this
Yeah,
timeline been like for you?
we haven't played a show in about a year at this point, but we've been playing like one-off stuff. We did like a little Texas tour. We've done a couple of like a festivals in Austin and stuff. So we've been doing it a little bit, but this is of course the first time that we're like, I mean, this is, and really the reunion tour was of course a tour, but it was a smaller number of cities. We flew between them, or because they were like a month apart, so it's like we fly to California, play those 3 shows, fly home 3 weeks later, fly to the Midwest, so that's not really like a typical tour unless you're Led Zeppelin or something.
Yeah.
So we this time this is like the real deal, like 19 cities in a van all the
Yeah.
way around 3.5 weeks. So this is something I haven't done, God, since like 2007. So
I'm assuming you didn't miss the van part of it.
I've been like terrified about that because, now that I'm not 22, it's
Once
like
you
I just
you hit
desire
20
comfort.
You hit 25 and your back starts hurting like you're 60 years old, and you're like, oh shit, now I gotta sit in a
But
van for 10 hours
the
a day.
irony is that I'm actually like in much better shape now than I was. Now I'm like really fit. I take great care of myself. Back then I
Good.
did not do that. But nonetheless, it's like I have had anxiety, like, oh God, I can't get in a van and go around the country
Yeah.
again. But 2 years ago, I did a solo acoustic tour opening for this band Generationals.
Mhm.
And this was like a 3.5 week tour in the van, and I was dreading it because of the potential discomfort, but actually it was great. Like I found that it's really not so hard. Like the trick is you have to not party all the time.
Yeah.
I found that if I just like don't really drink, which I barely drink these days, like if
Yeah.
I don't really drink and I just, we go back to the hotel afterward, I sleep, even if it's not that long. It's fine to be in a van the next day,
You mean
Like
being deathly hungover is bad for being in a van?
it turns out that's actually the biggest problem.
Scientists have also discovered
Yeah.
being in a van hungover is also bad for you.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to most about being back on the road?
I'm just really, I guess when people have asked me this in interviews, the answer is always the same, but it's true. I'm honestly looking forward to just being in that rhythm again. Like the times that I have toured since 2022, I have just felt like very right doing it. It's felt very like correct usage of my being, and I never thought I would do it again. So it's surprising to me, and I want to keep, of course, doing it. And I'm written almost another new album and about to finish another solo album. Like I just want the wheel to keep spinning and get growing, So I'm just looking forward to like really having that machine up and running again.
You talked about being scared of like never being able to do it again. What got you out of that? Like what broke you free from that feeling and fear and got you back on the horse?
Um, that's a great question. It's weird, like trying to identify what was the switch. I mean, here's a weird answer, but it's kind of true. Like, of course, part of it just because Voxtrot was successful when I was so young, and we were signed when I was so young. There's of course this feeling of like, yeah, being too old and nobody will care, and like it's ridiculous, like just all of that fear of being old and irrelevant, I guess. But what kind of changed it for me was, I mean, I started getting really back into, with my second solo album, like back into loving writing songs. Like I was obsessed with the process, and then I got really into Willie Nelson, and which I'm from Austin, like he's like in the water, but
Yeah.
I never cared that much. But I got really into Willie Nelson, and I loved his life story of how, he had early success as a songwriter with like Patsy Cline and stuff, and he had some success there, but he never had success as him
Yeah.
as an artist. He had like 30 failed albums in Nashville, and then he like hit a breaking point in his late 30s, and he famously laid down in the middle of Broadway one night and was like ready to give it all up, and then went back home to Texas planning to just choose another life, and somehow by just kind of being his authentic self had this renaissance in his early 40s, which that is the Willie Nelson that people know.
Yeah. I
You know,
mean,
that is, he didn't even look like that before. It's like that is when his career, as most people know him, actually began.
yeah. I mean, if you think
I
about
would,
Willie Nelson, you don't think about young Willie Nelson.
no, you would see him and he actually looks older than older Willie Nelson. But like, yeah, it's like I thought, wow, that's so cool. Like, if you really are talking about a lifetime career, if you have the strength to stick it out when it's really, really hard and to keep believing and get back on the horse, you don't know what you will achieve later. You have to be able to survive, once again, this word ego, but you have to be able to survive that like ego wilderness, that
Yeah.
unknowing, you know, and I think not a lot of musicians are willing to walk through that. So I just started kind of saying yes to tons of shows, like little things like acoustic stuff at a coffee shop, like stuff I never would have done before, just to get the muscle going again.
Yeah. It's definitely so interesting, especially now in the modern age of just Instagram and social media and everybody showing all of their success but none of their failures. I feel like it's
Yeah.
so easy to just be like, you know, you're only seeing them blow up. You're not seeing them work for thousands and thousands of hours and
Yeah.
suck at it before they finally start popping off. So I definitely agree with that. How has that sort of changed this new era of Voxtrot? Because you know you blew up in the era of like blog rock, right? And it's
Mhm.
like so indicative of such a specific time. Um, it's clearly not that time anymore. We don't use MySpace anymore. Rest in peace and stuff like that. How is that sort of vibe shifted coming into this like new age of social media?
Um, well, I guess the new age of social media is, I mean, you know, there's like, of course, I would be not the first person to say it is the most complex double-edged sword of all time.
Yeah,
Like it is amazing the ability to communicate, disseminate information. It's like unreal. You know,
yeah,
that is of course where almost all of our reach comes from. But MySpace, as anybody who remembers it at that time, that was not fraught the way that this thing with social media is fraught. Like as it's gone on, I mean, I just feel like, yeah, I guess as it's gone on, I feel like um I really like using it. It's important for us, but I have to maintain some degree of detachment. Like it's great to put out information if I have something I really feel like I want to say, etc. But these days I'm mostly just saying, here's some music news for Voxtrot
yeah,
because I have just like, as many have said before me, the seeing the way that it has turned everybody against each other
yeah,
and just like multiplied the anxiety and the aggression times 1 billion in a way no one could have predicted is just nuts. And
how
this was
everybody's just
not,
insane now.
yeah, and it was of course not that way with MySpace. MySpace was
Yeah,
like, this is my top 8. Come to this party. It's
yeah,
so light, you know. So I think it's really, yeah, in a way, it's like I feel like it was social media is like this very bright, seductive light that drew all of us in, and now
yeah,
it's like, whoa,
yeah.
now it's back over here, and I'm kind of respected from a distance.
Moth to a flame for sure.
Yeah.
Um, you're also, I wanted to bring this up because during my research, researching Blog Rock, you're literally the photo on Wikipedia for Blog Rock. I don't know
Are
if you
you
knew that.
joking?
I'm not joking.
Oh my
If
god.
you go onto the Wikipedia article of Blog Rock, it says Ramesh of Voxtrot.
Oh man.
So
Well, that's good, I guess. What do they say? Any press is good press.
yeah, it's great press. Do you feel tied to that era at all in this new time in Voxtrot's lifespan?
I feel, well, I mean, like so far, no review of our record can ever not mention it. So,
Yeah.
for better or worse, I'm always tied to that. I feel like I, well, I don't know. Maybe I have no objectivity because I'm just the frog in water, but
Yeah.
I feel like we've survived it.
Yeah.
I feel amazed. I
Yeah.
hope that's true. I'm not delusional, but I feel amazed that we like that since then, and this is true for other bands of that era, that like because of streaming and because of social media, new people have come on board who were not maybe even alive at that time. So
Yeah.
I feel grateful that I still feel like the genuine attachment to the music is there. It
Yeah.
does not, to me anyway, it does not feel like a straight up nostalgia trip. It still feels like the connection is real. So I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah, I think everybody is always, there's cycles of this, but everybody is, especially right now, like so into that era of music. Like, we just
Yeah.
announced Passion Pit is coming through soon, and
Oh,
that
cool.
sort of era of like indie and indie pop and stuff like that is back in a big way. Um, what were some of your biggest musical inspirations on the latest album? I know you shared a playlist of it, but it's like it goes
Oh.
between like Lana Del Rey and Pink Floyd and like the Twin Peaks soundtrack. What of any of those was the most inspirational to you? Was there any one thing that you really used as a North Star in this?
Well, I guess one, I guess in terms of a general mood, I mean, in the end, I feel like it ends up being that like each song or mostly each song has its kind of own sonic world. So it's not really like one palette across it, but I will say that I was like Jason, our bass player who recorded the whole record, he's a record collector initially, he's really serious about that. And now that he built a studio, he's like a gear collector. Like he's gotten so intense about collecting really nice vintage gear. So we're using, I always say that, or Jason actually said, like, oh, I feel like in the past Voxtrot sounded like the 60s and now it moved into the 70s, which is kind of, I mean, I think it sounds modern, especially because of the mixing job on it. But um, yeah, like we were really into this idea of like beautiful raw sound fidelity, and a lot of that for me was listening to records from the 70s and
Yeah.
especially the late 70s. I was really obsessed with a lot of like, yeah, like some synth, I don't know if I could say synth driven, but even stuff like Pink Floyd, there's like this whole era of music where
Yeah.
where synthesizers were really starting to come into rock music, Uh, and so I watched a lot of 70s films while
Nice.
making
What
this.
were you
Like,
watching?
the first one that comes to mind is, have you ever seen the movie Diva?
No.
Diva is this French director. I can't remember his name. He also made um, and I think it's a man, and now I can't remember. So I'm saying it all. This director also made Betty Blue, which is probably the most famous film of theirs. But Diva is about this. It's like an opera singer that's visiting Paris, and this kind of crazy organized crime triangle that is involved with it. And it's shot in the 70s, and it's like everything about it, like it's so beautifully stylized, all that 70s cinema, it's kind of the height,
Yeah.
like music, it's like the height of production value, like beautiful craft of camera work and the props, and it's so sumptuous and it's disco and it's so awesome. So, and the soundtrack is really like they use a lot of synths, and
Nice.
but there's kind of like a groovy rock undertone. So I was just really interested in this Venn diagram of taste and high production value.
That's very cool. Whenever I think 70s movie with a soundtrack, I think Shaft every single
Which
time.
I've never seen, sadly.
You got to see that.
There's
It's
still
it's
time.
really good. There's plenty of time. As long as you don't start chronologically from the first movie and work your way up, I think you'll be okay to check it out at some point.
Nice.
Well, sweet. We've just spent 30 minutes talking to each other. I'd love to give the audience some time to ask you a couple questions if that's cool with you.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
Sweet. So we have Poncho said, "Do you have any songs that were unfinished from years ago that made it on the new album?"
That is a great psychic question because the answer is yes. There are two songs on this record. They were unfinished from, okay, the songs are Quiet Noise and Change. Both of them I'd written for, but once Voxtrot was broken up and I was in my solo career. So, and I think I wrote them, no, Quiet Noise I wrote like, oh my God, it's probably 9 years ago at this point. And Change I wrote not long after that, actually. So they're from about the same time. And I had actually recorded Quiet Noise with my solo band, and Change had just been kicking around as a demo, which was actually on my, I don't know, a Tumblr or something. I can't remember. But remember, my brother would always be like, I love that Change song. And
Yeah.
so when I was, every few months for this record, I would send, like 5 demos to my bandmates and say, okay, this is the newest crop. Choose the ones you like the best. And both of those songs, all of them were like, we like these two.
Nice. Do you
Yeah.
think you'll ever release the demos of that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I actually, yes, if this comes to pass where I release all the demos on a cassette or whatever, like
Yeah.
for sure, I would release. I really like both of those demos,
Yeah.
and it's weird, like how much stuff that's on the final song, like it is on those demos. It's strange.
Yeah. Is it a drastic difference between the demos and the finished version?
Well, yeah, because I mean obviously well, those demos are old, so I'm not trying to make drum parts or anything. So
Yeah.
they're just whatever I can play. Um, but man, now that I'm thinking about it, Change is definitely different. It's definitely very different because my demo version is like it's more sentimental.
Yeah.
The Voxtrot one is, as often happens in a good way, has more levity. It's like sentimental but groovy.
Yeah.
Uh, the Quiet Noise, I'd say the main difference is that Jared's orchestral arrangement for the album version is masterful, and that is not on my demo.
Sweet. Are you an orchestral guy? Do you ever mess around with arranging stuff like that or no?
Well, yeah, I have, but not for Voxtrot usually because Jared does it. But
Yeah.
for this album, he and Mitch, they don't live here. The rest of us live here. He and Mitch played on most of the songs. They worked on almost all of them, but there's a couple that are just Matt, Jason, and I. And the last one on the album, Babylon, it's just the 3 of us. And that one, I ended up having, I wrote the initial idea for the string part, and Jason and I finished it with an arranger. So that's the first time I've done that for Voxtrot.
Nice. Nees Goda said, "Thanks for doing this, Ramesh. I feel like I've heard you mention the world of fame and trying to keep a sense of self, and through exploring the worlds of spirituality. Could you talk a bit more about the modality of spirituality and how does that or does not blend into the music writing process?"
Hmm. Yeah, like when Voxtrot broke up, not long after that ended when I was 27, so only a couple years after that, I started getting into meditation. I went to this 10-day silent retreat called Vipassana, and that kind of started it for me. From there, I explored all kinds of like many modalities of therapy and spirituality and meditation, and got super, super deep into it to where for a while I thought like I couldn't even imagine having a music career again because it seemed like that was my old life. Now it would just be, I would just have to be too in my ego to do it.
Yeah.
Like to
You went
put
monk
yourself in
mode.
this. What's that?
You went monk mode. Just
I
you're like,
went
yeah,
monk mode.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like if I was gonna come back and if I was gonna do it, it would have to be a different kind of music. Like you've discovered a message and you have to proselytize or something. And then, um, yeah, it's like that was there for a bit, and it's kind of present in some of my solo music. But then I got to a point where I started to see like what I call the spiritual value of entertainment, which is just that like, this is not really the root of this is not something I came up with. I remember my friend from one of these spiritual communities saying to me that like often, people we get like stuck in our heads and kind of like discombobulated in life and we don't know what to do. But if you can move yourself to tears or to laughter, there's something about it that like you realize that's actually where you're trying to go, is like to your heart, is to feeling. And then you don't feel as discombobulated. You kind of just feel more at peace. And I realized that like entertainment, like music really does do that. People would say like, oh, like music is healing. And it's true, music can be healing, but it's like, even if it's just enjoyable, then that is healing. It doesn't have to be like a heavy kind of healing. So I got to the point where I realized, okay, like I can still like write about what interests me, even if it's not spiritually enlightened or whatever. Like if it feels authentic to my interest and I'm expressing myself and I'm giving people a good time or something to think about, something to feel, then I feel right doing it. It doesn't feel like I'm just flexing my ego.
100% agree. I think a lot of people's interpretation of pop music is like, well, there's like nothing behind it. And it's like, well, do you enjoy listening to it? And if the answer is yes, then it's good. Then it's good for you.
Yeah, it's energy. It's energy of it, I guess.
Yeah. You said you went on a silent retreat. What was that like?
Oh, that was fine. Just the silent part.
Do you just not talk for 10 days?
Yeah, but that's the easy part. That's like, that's not hard. What's hard is meditating for 10 hours a day.
Yeah. Are you a meditator?
Well, I do now, like, but I'm like, through all of this, probably the thing that if I could plug any one thing of all this exploration here would be this, like, there's this series of books called The Diamond Heart by this guy named A.H. Almas. And that's as what's spoken to me the most, is just kind of like by a more gentle form of meditation, just like 20 minutes a day of just observing my thoughts in a detached way. I can really get kind of like feel my essence, so to speak. So I'm not like, the Vipassana practice is really, really intense. It's really like difficult. And maybe I could do it now. At that time, it was so hard for me, but that's the hard part. Silence, not hard.
The silent retreat is so interesting to me because I'm like, how did you get dinner? Did you have to like use sign language or just point at the food? Like, what was that like?
You just like file into this room and you're not even supposed to look at each other. They ladle food out onto a plate.
So it's a silent and no eye contact retreat?
Yeah, you're encouraged not to make eye contact with people.
When are they gonna like attack you because they haven't been able to talk? Like, what is that about?
You're saying what will happen to you?
Well, yeah. Why are they like, don't look at me? Is it like, I don't know.
Well, because you're supposed to not. You're not supposed to read. You're not supposed to listen to music. You're not, obviously can't have your phone. Like, you're supposed to be completely with yourself.
It sounds like you paid to be tortured.
It's free.
Oh, okay, good.
There's a benefit. It's cool. Yeah. Some people, that's their path for life, but I don't think it's mine.
No, well, I'm happy that you're talking now and that we could have this conversation. Well, very cool. Dances with Chopsticks said, "What's a Pipedream collab that you would love to do in the future?"
And that's a really great question. I'm trying to think of a specific person. Okay, so yesterday I was talking to somebody who, basically I have a whole other album of songs demoed that are all like full on like synth pop.
Sick.
Basically. And I really want to make this is really circuitous, but I'll make it as quick as possible. Basically, like the rest of the nation, and especially the gay rest of the nation, I watched all of Heated Rivalry in one fell swoop, right? And
Nice.
I was thinking, and like that show, it's like obviously sexy, it's glamorous, but it also has heart. It's like, especially if you're a gay person, when you get to the end of it, it's like very moving, I think. But and especially if you're a gay person who grew up when I did. But I was thinking when I was watching that, like, I would love to make something that's like big, like high gloss entertainment like this, but is like also has heart. So
Yeah.
I've made this collection. I'm probably about halfway done of like just like really kind of maybe even commercially accessible like synth pop songs with heart, kind of
Yeah.
big entertainment. So I really want to collaborate with somebody on that. And I've been trying to think of like, where do I even go for an electronic collaborator?
Hmm.
And I like I know that One O Tricks Point Never like did the Weekend album, for
Yeah.
example. So something like that would be cool, but I'm a little bit in the dark as to how I actually do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, but I'm trying to think of like who you could talk to. Um,
I kind of know some people, but it's got to be that weird thing where it's like
it has to
it's
be in
not
passing, and
so left field,
yeah,
you know?
I feel like there's got to
That's
be
the
some
trick.
serendipity to it.
Right.
Um, I wish you'd brought up Heated Rivalry earlier. We could have talked about that the whole time. What
There's
was your
enough
favorite?
talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. We just hosted 4 Heated Rivalry dance parties.
You did.
People love that show here.
I mean, I'm happy, of course, to see. I'm like surprised by the ultimate mainstream embrace of that, but
Yeah,
obviously amazing.
I think a really cool side effect of it is like there's been a couple stories of like hockey players coming out and being like, I felt comfortable
Yeah,
doing this because I saw the reception of Heated Rivalry, and it's like, yeah, man, like that's what it's all about. That's awesome.
that is awesome.
Um, okay, we got time for a couple more. I don't want to keep you all
Right.
day, but Captivating Eagle says, besides DC, what's your favorite city to stop at on tour and why?
Hmm. Um, Honestly, it's hard. So a lot of them are tied, but I would say, you know, uh, LA and San Francisco probably pretty tied, but I always say that from when even when we first started touring, that somehow there has always been a magic with Voxtrot in San Francisco, and I don't know what it is. Like it's like none of it like LA too, but LA is more obvious people because it's so populous and it's
Yeah,
the center of the music industry. Like people would think would be more predictable. But for San Francisco, from the first time we ever showed up there and played this indie pop party at this place called the Rickshaw Stop, before we were very well known, it was like weird. Like from the get-go, the connection was there. There was this cluster of people that knew our music. We became friends with them. They took us out all night, all over San Francisco to all these parties. And from there, it's just been like this weird love affair. And I
yeah,
don't know what it is. For a while, there was a Facebook group called Foxtrot Should Move to San Francisco. So it's been whatever it is, I couldn't say. I mean, that city is obviously magical. It is
yeah.
like unreal to look at. The history is insane. Yeah, so I always, when we're going there, I always have a very good feeling in my heart.
Nice. I love San Francisco. Also, like if you're into hiking or anything, it's just everywhere you go
Yeah,
across the bridge. It's just all there. It's gorgeous. My uncle lives there, and it's just the best.
yeah.
Um, well, we're reaching our end point here. We ask this question to everybody, and everybody being 3 people because this is the 3rd episode. Thank you for being a part of this so early on. One of the early
Yeah.
adopters. What's your favorite tour snack?
My what?
Your favorite tour snack? What are you eating on the road that keeps you
Oh,
sane?
dang. That's the hardest part of being on tour.
Yeah,
The food
finding
scenario
finding
can be
flavor. Yeah.
rough. My favorite.
I can't believe this is the one that stumped you out of all of the
I
questions
know.
I've
Well,
asked.
it's like at this point, it's probably a kind bar.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Like, I guess like one time somebody brought these with this like we have this independent hippie grocery store called Wheatsville in Austin,
Okay.
and they sell these energy cubes. and I don't know what they're made out of. It's like nuts and
It doesn't say what's
almond
in
butter
it.
and something, whatever it is. It's like a masterminded, like perfect macrobiotic energy cube. And I like will never remember to get that. Like someone else has to do that, and I have to just benefit from it. But that's if I was smart, that's my favorite toy snack.
I don't know if I could bring myself to eat something that's called an energy cube.
It's really what you need because otherwise you're eating shit basically. But this will save your life.
Yeah. Well, it's not an energy cube, but we'll have some 9:30 cupcakes for you when you show up.
There we go. Yeah.
Ramesh, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you. Saturday, April 11th, you're going to be here in DC at the Atlantis. We will see you there. I will see you there. I'll be in the crowd. And it was so lovely talking to you today. Do you have anything you want to say before you close out?
No, I think that's it. I guess I would just say, like, thanks for being here for this today. I was saying to Ben that I think it's amazing that this community exists. And thanks for listening to my music, whether it's new or from 20 years ago. And look forward to seeing you soon.
We'll see you real soon. Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Have a good one.